People often ask me, Professor Wolff, how did we get here? How did America, a nation that prided itself on democracy, freedom, and opportunity, arrive at this level of chaos, division, and economic despair? And I tell them, we didn't get here overnight. What we're witnessing today under Trump and beyond him is not an accident. It's the outcome of decades, yes, decades of a system that put profits before people, wealth before work, and corporations before citizens. Trump didn't create America's problems, he amplified them. He took the weaknesses buried deep inside our economic system and put them right on display for the entire world to see. When people say that Trump ruined America, I tell them this: he didn't ruin it, he revealed it. He tore down the curtain that had been carefully hung for decades to hide the machinery of exploitation grinding beneath our so-called freedom. For years, we were told the system works, that if you just work hard enough, stay loyal, pay your taxes, and follow the rules, you'll rise. But what happens when the rules are written by the rich, for the rich? What happens when the ladder you're told to climb is already missing its rungs? Trump's rise didn't create that reality, it exposed it. His presidency wasn't the disease, it was the fever that showed how sick the patient already was. And that's the brutal truth we needed to see, because before you can fix something, you have to ever see it for what it is. Trump's bluntness, his arrogance, his unapologetic greed, all of it reflected the soul of a system that has rewarded exactly those traits for generations. He said out loud what corporate America has whispered in boardrooms for decades, that power belongs to money, not morality. And when he flaunted it, millions gasped, but deep down they recognized it. It was the truth they'd felt every time their rent went up, every time their paycheck shrank, every time a billionaire got another tax break while their town lost another factory. There's a strange kind of liberation in seeing the truth, even when it's ugly. When the lies are stripped away, you're left with clarity, and clarity is power. Trump made it impossible to pretend that America was a fair playing field anymore. His government wasn't a break from tradition, it was a mirror held up to the traditions themselves. Greed dressed up as patriotism, inequality defended as freedom, corruption disguised as leadership. The empire didn't crack under him, it merely showed the fractures that had always been there. But here's the thing: when people finally see the truth, they can no longer unsee it. You can't go back to believing the fairy tale once you've watched it burn. Millions of Americans, for the first time, started asking questions they'd never dared to ask before. Why do we have billionaires while children starve? Why do politicians promise change but deliver the same? Why do we call it democracy when money decides who wins? Those questions are dangerous because they awaken a generation, and no system built on lies survives an awakened population. That's why this exposure, as painful as it was, is also profoundly hopeful. Because awareness is the spark that precedes transformation. When a nation looks into the mirror and sees corruption, exploitation, and division staring back, it has two choices: denial or rebirth. Denial keeps the cycle alive, rebirth breaks it. Trump's America forced us to confront the rot, not just in the White House, but in our institutions, in our corporations, in the very logic of capitalism itself. And for the first time in decades, people started talking about the economy not as an abstract market, but as a human system, one that could be redesigned, reimagined, and rebuilt. So, yes, the truth was painful. But pain, my friends, is not the enemy. It's the signal. It tells you something is wrong, something needs to change. The moment you stop numbing yourself with illusions, you begin to heal. Trump's era ripped away the illusion that the powerful care about the powerless, that the system rewards honesty, that progress is automatic. He forced us to see the world as it truly is, and that clarity, though it came through fire, is the foundation of something new, because once people see the truth of their chains, they start to imagine freedom. And once they imagine it, nothing, no government, no billionaire, no demagogue can stop them from reaching for it. Pain is not the end, it's the beginning, Every great transformation in history was born out of discomfort, out of struggle, out of a collective H that could no longer be ignored. What you are feeling right now, the frustration, the disillusionment, the anger at how things turned out, that's not destruction. That's our awakening. And make no mistake, awakening is never gentle. It comes like a storm, tearing through the illusions we've lived under, stripping away comfort so we can finally confront truth. Pain is not your punishment, it is your teacher. It shows you what must change. It tells you that the life, the system, the nation you believed in has stopped serving you, and that something new must take its place. When people lose jobs, when healthcare disappears, when wages stagnate while billionaires multiply, that pain is not random, it's systemic. It's the result of an economic machine that's been programmed to serve profits, not people. And when that pain builds, when ordinary Americans realize they are working harder but falling behind, when families feel invisible in the country they helped build, they begin to see what the slogans never told them. They begin to see that something is fundamentally broken. And that realization, though it hurts, is power in its purest form. Because once you understand that your suffering is not your fault, but the product of a design, you can begin to redesign it. Trump's America brought that pain into focus. Millions of people who felt forgotten found a voice, even if it came from the wrong messenger. And that's the irony, isn't it? That people so desperate for change will follow anyone who promises to break the system that broke them. The pain that fueled Trump's rise was real. It was the pain of deindustrialization, of jobs lost to outsourcing, of small towns gutted by corporate greed. But instead of healing that pain, Trump weaponized it. He turned it inward, making working people blame each other rather than the system that exploited them both. He sold anger as empowerment, division as truth, chaos as change, and yet, even in that manipulation, something extraordinary happened. People started feeling again. They stopped being numb. They realized how much they had been ignored. You see, numbness is the tool of oppression. As long as you're comfortable, as long as you're distracted, as long as you believe that pain is just part of life, you never resist. But when you hurt deeply, collectively, persistently, something inside you snaps. You stop accepting, you stop pretending. And that is where revolutions are born, not just political ones, but moral, intellectual, and spiritual revolutions. Pain wakes you up to the truth that you deserve better, that this can't be all there is, that the story of your country and your life isn't supposed to end in despair. What we are witnessing is the early stage of a reckoning. The American people are starting to recognize that their pain has been monetized, their struggles turned into profit margins for those who already have more than enough. Every economic crisis has been an opportunity for the powerful to expand their control, while ordinary people are told to tighten their belts and be grateful. But now that narrative is cracking. The pain is too widespread, too visible, too loud to be silenced. People are talking about inequality, exploitation, and justice again, not as abstract ideals, but as urgent necessities. So when you feel that anger, that disappointment, that exhaustion, don't suppress it, channel it, because that energy, if directed toward understanding and collective action, becomes unstoppable. Every protest, every movement, every act of courage began with a moment of pain that refused to stay silent. The key is to not let that pain divide us, but unite us. It's not about left or right, red or blue. It's about those who work and those who profit off their work. Once we understand that, pain stops being a weapon against us and becomes a weapon for us. Trump didn't invent this suffering. He exposed it, exaggerated it, and exploited it. But now that exposure has given us clarity, and clarity leads to transformation. Pain is the signal that the old way of living has reached its limit. It's the birth cry of a new consciousness. And though it burns, though it breaks us open, it also rebuilds us stronger. Because when you've endured enough pain, you stop begging for change, you start becoming it. Power has always belonged to the working class, but for too long, They've been convinced they don't have every factory worker, every driver, every teacher, every nurse, every builder. They are the invisible spine of the nation. Without their labor, nothing functions. No economy, no government, no empire survives without them. And yet they've been taught to believe they're replaceable, insignificant, powerless. That illusion is the greatest success of the system that exploits them. Because once a working person understands their true value, once they realize that their labor is the source of all wealth, the entire foundation of inequality begins to shake. Think about it. The billionaire doesn't create wealth by himself. The politician doesn't grow the economy by decree. The stock market doesn't produce food, build homes, or educate children. It is the millions of workers, often exhausted, underpaid, and unseen, who keep the entire machine alive. The irony is that they already have the power they're searching for. They just haven't been told how much it matters. Capitalism depends on their obedience, on their silence, on their belief that their efforts are small and their voices weaker than the noise of those above them. But history shows us something different. Every time workers unite, the powerful tremble. Every time the working class organizes, economies change. Every time they say, enough, the system bends. Trump's presidency, in many ways, played on this forgotten truth. He spoke to the working class, but not to empower them. He spoke to manipulate their pain. He promised to restore dignity to their labor, to bring back their jobs, to make them proud again. And for a brief moment, people believed. They believed someone finally saw them. But behind the slogans was the same old game: policies written for the wealthy, tax cuts for corporations, and laws designed to weaken unions, silence workers, and keep wages low. The working class wasn't lifted up, it was used as a prop, as a talking point, as a symbol of patriotism, but never as a partner in power. And yet, out of that betrayal came something unexpected: awareness. People began to see through the lies. They realized that no savior was coming from the top, that real change could only come from below, from them. You see, power is not given, it's taken. And the moment workers stop believing in the myth of their weakness, everything changes. Because when you withhold your labor, you stop the world. When you organize your labor, you shape the world. And when you understand your labor, you own the world. That's the revolution capitalism fears most, not one fought with weapons, but with awareness. There's a reason why every movement for justice in history has started with ordinary people who decided they were extraordinary. When miners refused to die for coal company profits, when teachers marched for fair pay, when factory workers demanded safety, when nurses stood up for dignity, those moments didn't just improve lives, they redefined what power means. Power isn't money. Power isn't position. Power is people realizing that without their consent, without their work, without their participation, the elite have nothing. The economy isn't built by CEOs, it's built by you. Every dollar in a billionaire's pocket was once a fraction of someone's unpaid labor, someone's lost hour, someone's sleepless night. And that's why the most dangerous idea in the world isn't revolution, it's recognition. Recognition that you matter, that you've been lied to, that you have the ability to create and withhold, to unite and to change. When the working class begins to see itself not as a collection of individuals struggling to survive, but as a collective force capable of transforming society, that's when the tide turns. And make no mistake, that turning has already begun. You can feel it in the strikes, in the protests, in the rising voice of people who are no longer afraid to demand what they deserve. The future will belong to those who realize that labor is not submission, it's creation. The hands that build nations can also rebuild them. And the day workers understand that, truly understand that, the game ends for those who have been playing it from above. Because you can buy machines, you can buy media, you can buy influence, but you can't buy the collective power of millions who finally see themselves for who they are, the foundation of everything. The moment that truth spreads, no president, no corporation, no empire can stop it. False promises are the oldest trick in politics and the most effective. They offer hope without sacrifice, change without struggle, salvation without responsibility. Trump mastered that illusion. He told millions of disillusioned Americans that he would drain the swamp, break the chains of corruption, and return power to the people. It was a powerful story, simple, emotional, and easy to believe. But here's the truth: no single man, no matter how loud or charismatic, can fix a system that is built to serve wealth, not humanity. The swamp wasn't created by one administration. It was created by an entire economic structure that rewards greed and punishes compassion. And when a system is that deeply corrupted, promises become performances, distractions designed to keep people believing while nothing truly changes. When Trump declared himself the champion of the working class, people felt seen. For the first time in a long time, someone was speaking their language, blunt, unapologetic, full of outrage at the elites who had ignored them for decades. But behind the words was the same machinery of exploitation that has governed America for generations. The tax cuts he signed went not to the workers, but to corporations. The deregulation he celebrated didn't protect jobs, it protected profits. The trade wars he waged didn't rebuild factories. They deepened global instability and raised costs for the very people who supported him. His populism was not rebellion, it was repackaged privilege. It promised a revolution but delivered a rerun of the same capitalist script that has played for decades. Wealth flows upward, and working people are left with slogans instead of solutions. False promises work because they speak to real pain. They feed on desperation. When people feel abandoned, they don't demand truth. They cling to hope. And the architects of power know this. They sell illusions precisely because illusions keep the system alive. As long as people believe that change can come from the top, they will never demand it from the bottom. As long as they think a strong leader will fix everything, they will never realize the strength that lies within themselves. That is the tragedy of every era, when citizens mistake personality for progress and charisma for courage. The system doesn't fear false promises, it depends on them. It thrives on the endless cycle of discontent and disappointment, on leaders who promise to break the chains but instead polish them. And while the people argue over parties and personalities, the corporations continue their quiet conquest, buying media, writing laws, controlling labor, and shaping the very boundaries of what we think is possible. That's the real power. Invisible, institutional, protected by laws that were never meant for us. So when a politician like Trump promises to drain the swamp, you must ask yourself, how can a man drain the very pond he swims in? How can someone funded by billionaires ever stand against them? Real change never comes wrapped in a campaign slogan. It doesn't wear a suit or stand behind a podium. Real change grows from struggle, from people who refuse to believe the lies any longer. The working class has been betrayed too many times to keep falling for the same story told with a different accent. The truth is, no leader can save you from the system. The system can only be changed when people stop waiting for permission to act. History has never moved because of one man's promise. It has always moved because millions of ordinary people decided to stop obeying. And here's the hook that every generation must face: false promises lose their power the moment people stop needing them. When citizens begin to understand that their liberation won't come from politicians, but from participation, from organizing, from demanding, from building, that's when transformation begins. Trump's failure, like many before him, wasn't just political, it was symbolic. It showed that charisma without conscience, leadership without integrity, and vision without structure cannot save a decaying system. What he exposed unintentionally was the emptiness of waiting for saviors, because the truth is this: the world changes only when people stop hoping someone else will do it for them. That realization is terrifying to the powerful and liberating to everyone else. So what now? Do we despair? Do we sit back and watch this decline continue? No, because understanding the problem is the first act of resistance. Trump's presidency forced millions to wake up. to see that the American dream has been hijacked, that the system needs transformation, not repair,